Hello and welcome. I'm Jason Diggs, and I'm here to talk about authentic relating in the workplace. And I'm the author of Conflict Equals Energy, the transformative practice of authentic relating. And I've been teaching this practice for over 10 years and also training facilitators. And I'm going to talk a little bit in this talk about the authentic relating movement and the current trends that we're now seeing, like applying this work directly to the workplace and psychological safety in the workplace. So, what the other leaders of authentic relating all over the world, and myself have found when working with groups, and I've been in hundreds of trainings over the past 10 years, and we've put thousands and thousands of people through these different courses that are essentially emotional education courses. They're emotional intelligence courses, and we cover things like curiosity and boundaries and how to really be in right relationship with other people, and kind of these more advanced communication technologies around transforming conflict into energy. And when we can do that, we can really wake up and grow up to the best version of ourselves. And so this is a personal growth method that's been taught all over the world in the last decade and helped so many people recover from social anxiety, really come to know themselves and be able to make clear and vulnerable requests with the people in their lives, helping people with their personal lives, romantic lives, friendships. It's also a practice that's really great for building community. The number one thing that we often hear in authentic relating events is, I feel so seen, I feel so myself, I feel so much openness to be authentic and tell the truth, and this is just like liberating to live this way. And so some of the newer trends of bringing this into business, I'm going to talk a little bit about polarity. And the main polarity that we look at in authentic relating is dignity and humility. And this is a really interesting one. And we have exercises around this, and I'm just going to go over the theory in this talk. And there's lots of practical knowledge in my book, lots of exercises. Authentic relating is really a vast, over 200 exercises and games that you can play at the dinner table, with work colleagues to get more connected. And so let's just go over these. I'm going to go over two polarities. And a polarity is two positive values that we need to balance in any system, in any team, in any business. We need to balance these two values, because if we don't, we're going to really have the drawbacks of these, and I'll explain a little bit more when I turn on the slides. A polarity might be a big polarity might be love and truth, right? We need to have both. Another big polarity might be night and day. And so let's go into this dignity and humility one. And I'm going to read this slide, and then I'm going to tell you more about posture and collapse and what that means. Waking up to all the patterns of posture and collapse that we play out with the people in our lives can be quite humbling. The truth is, we all do this. We all posture or become defensive in relationship to others sometimes, and we all collapse or discount ourselves in relation to others. We all experience adversity. We all feel fear, and as a result, sometimes we posture, and other moments we collapse by saying nothing or apologizing. These patterns exist to hide our vulnerability, right? Ironically, this is exactly the perfect starting point for being authentic. And a lot of authentic relating works with the energy of vulnerability. Brene Brown has done such a huge service to our culture by promoting work on vulnerability and doing research on it, and really showing that it is the key to full aliveness. And we want to have full aliveness and connected relationships. That's the goal of authentic relating. So authenticity means including all parts of ourselves, even the ones that hide our insecurities. So each time we reveal a part of us, that we would normally put a mask over, we take a big step toward living a more authentic life. The shadow points the way to the gift. By recognizing patterns of posture and collapse, we teach ourselves to be more dignified and humble. And this is essential for leading an authentic life. So, dignity and humility is the ability to communicate what's true for us without closing ourselves off to the other person, especially when we're in a little bit of friction or challenge, or we just are coming from two different places, right? We're coming from two different teams that are valuing two different things, and we need to learn to speak with confidence what is important to us, what is our truth. And we also need to stay humble. In other words, have our ears and be willing to listen to someone else. So posture is when we've closed off and we are unable to listen to other people. Collapse is when we don't have our own dignity to really speak our voice. And have you ever had that experience where your voice is really silenced? So really learning about dignity and humility and practicing them is the antidote to this. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about psychological safety and another polarity, because psychological safety, as we know, is the most important factor for high performing teams, as studied by Google. They published this study in 2015. You may be aware of this. And so what is psychological safety? It's the ability to be authentic, the ability to tell the truth, the ability to not feel like you're being silenced by the group dynamics or the social dynamics. And if we feel like we can actually make a mistake and it's able to be repaired, that's an example of something that really promotes psychological safety. Now, there's things that really undermine psychological safety, which is often when there's a power dynamic and the leader or person who's higher in role power is allowed to be authentic, and the other person, there's subtle messages that are happening that this person is not allowed to be authentic, or they silence themselves because out of fear and anxiety. So the solution to this is really to create a candor culture, a culture where we can be open and honest with each other. People who are lower in the hierarchy can share about mistakes or share about challenges or share about, even difficulties that they have at the workplace without fear of retribution, right? And in the workplace, there's a lot at stake, right? Our livelihood is at stake. Our wiring, our physiological wiring is designed to make sure that we stay safe and we can provide for ourselves and our families and our communities. And at work, if we feel like our job is at stake for any reason, even in a small way, we don't have the ability to be authentic. Let me say that again. If we feel like our job might be at risk or our social authority might be at risk if we tell the truth, we will simply not tell the truth. We will simply not be honest. And it's not because there's any moral failing there. There's actually the structure of our nervous system is such that we cannot speak if there's too many consequences or perceived consequences, and we will just silence ourselves, and over time our morale goes down and our productivity goes down. So and obviously, if we're going to tell the truth, we need to balance that with diplomacy and balance that with really making sure that we're respectful in our communication, making sure we're conscious of how our communication affects others, so that we can steer dynamically in our business, in our teams, and in our company, and really stay in the middle 80%. That's the key with these polarities, is we want to stay in the middle 80%, because as soon as we get to this place, of too much diplomacy, we experience the shadow. very quickly, which is stagnation and a lack of productivity. And then if we start to go for telling the truth and we lose sight of diplomacy, we very quickly experience fear and anxiety. And so this is just a really beginning of an introduction to how we would use authentic relating in the workplace. There's lots of other teachings. Like I said, there's hundreds of exercises within authentic relating. And in my work with companies, I've identified a dozen main exercises that I would do with teams. Some of them are just connection based. Some of them teach very specific skills that we can apply to the workplace. And some of them, like these two, really can help us think about culture in a really dynamic way. So thank you so much. And reach out to me if you have any questions. Or if you want to grab the book, you can do that on Amazon. Conflict Equals Energy. Once again, there's a lot of practical exercises and tools in this book that you can apply right away. So, all right, take care.